are recording with Miss Janet Sanders on Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 4:11 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, guys, if you want to support the podcast, click the little red button, locals. You can go join for like a couple bucks a month, get exclusive stuff, all that good stuff. Miss Sanders and I were just talking about, as I've been saying on the last couple of shows, the panic attack I had on Friday. And you were talking about how y'all had panic attacks after you were kidnapped. And through the conversation, you asked me how long have these been happening. I lost my older brother to suicide in 2014, and I've had about one panic attack a year since then. But I don't know what this one on Friday was. It was something from a completely different dimension, and it was just absolutely horrifying. And I'm gonna go see a doctor. Normally when these happen, I'm like, I'm gonna see a doctor, and then a couple days go by and you just go about your life like, yeah, whatever, it's not gonna happen again. No, I'm gonna follow up. This was not good. I can't do this again. But for all the people who are very confused about what we're talking about, Ms. Sanders, could you please introduce yourself real quick and tell them why you're here?
Yeah, my name's Janet Sanders, and I was one of the lucky ones to escape a Mexican kidnapping. And so hopefully we're going to have a lot to talk about. And I'm only going to say one thing on that because you brought something up. So first of all, I'm very, very sorry. Living through a suicide is one of the worst things you can ever do.
Thank you.
My first husband committed suicide.
Thank you.
We have a lot in common, you and I.
We do.
Yeah.
I haven't been kidnapped yet, and I don't want to check that box.
We're not going to let him kidnap you after what I tell you. So,
okay.
So what's triggering you, I think, is going back to that suicide. And until you unwrap that, this might go on. But as long as you unwrap that, you could probably get rid of this.
Yeah.
The mind is an amazing thing.
Yeah. And it's, I think I've unwrapped most of it. I did several years of therapy, and the persistent everyday anxiety has gone away. But sometimes I still just get hit by just like a rogue. It's like if you ever like had to clean up glitter or something. You clean up most of it, but years later, you might still find a piece of it or something. Your dog might have died 10 years ago, but you'll still find like hair shedding. And you're like, how did I miss this? That's kind of the only way I can explain these panic attacks is like, it's been almost 9 years since my brother passed. Like, done therapy. I've completely changed my life, and la-di-da-di-da, just going along. Podcast is going great. Got a cool apartment, staying healthy, staying fit, single. Like, life couldn't be better. I'm 32, not a care in the world. I'm my own boss. And then wham, you just get hit by one. And it's like getting sucker punched in the back of the head. You just come to afterwards and you're like, what was that? Like, what was that bullshit? Like,
I didn't ask for that. Now, did you go through PTSD after your brother passed?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I think I'm hesitant to say that because I interview so many combat veterans that I think what they went through is absolutely unrelatable to anything I could ever go through. I think me and my siblings had probably some form of trauma. Yeah, I don't think anything more or less than surviving a suicide would give you.
Oh, it's not the easiest thing, and you belong to a very unique club, but you know something. Having lived through that, it made you the storyteller. That's probably why you're so good at a podcast. You come at stories with a level of empathy most people can't even imagine, and you appreciate life in a way most people can't even dream of.
And it is, I think, humbling to have these because it kind of, you hear the saying, be kind to everyone you meet, for everyone's facing an uphill battle or something. And then you feel it in your bones after something like this, where you go, oh, it's not just a nice Hallmark saying. You really, like, the person at the front desk in the apartment, the guy delivering food, the person at the gym checking you, everyone, every single person is facing some sort of shitstorm that you know nothing about. And in that sense, it is humbling and probably beneficial.
Welcome to the world of empathy.
So can we kind of get into your entire story just for my audience and for everyone tuning in right now?
Yeah, let's jump into, it's really kind of timely with everything that just happened down in Matamoros.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I've actually been through Matamoros a time or two. So we'll talk about Matamoros. Let me tell you a little bit about how I ended up down in Mexico. And then we'll swing back to what's going on there now. And then let's see if we can take some of my experience and turn it very positive, because I find the best way to deal with trauma is to turn it into something good.
Absolutely.
So first of all, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I am. If you'd ever told me that a kid like you would ever want to hear this story, I would have never believed it. So
Oh,
I'm humbled and thanks. And hello to your entire audience. It's nice to be here. So several years ago, about 7, 8 years ago, I had, like we just mentioned, I lived through a suicide. And picking up the pieces, I built a little company, and my little company seemed to take off. It's amazing what happens when you go to work every day. So I'd worked and worked and worked and put the kids through school, and it was finally, as I called it, mama's time. So I'd always wanted to live on the beach. And my husband now is got dual citizenship. So we started looking all over the world, right? And we kept coming back to the Yucatan, Mexico. It was close to the United States. I could get in and out for business. And the Yucatan had been advertised as the safest place in the entire world for expats to go to. So I studied this area of the world for a year. And I looked at properties, and I finally found this man. His name was Adam Kowalski, and he was an American. So now I'm feeling better about it. And he tells me that he'll rent us a house so we can come down and check out the area and decide what we want to do. So we write a lease and we pay Adam Kowalski. And he tells us, and I should have thought this was strange at the time, but he tells us he doesn't want us to deal with anybody but him. His wife, he tells us, is crazy. Right? They're going through a divorce. She's crazy. Don't speak to my wife. Only deal with me. So I'm just thinking they're in the middle of a acrimonious divorce and we'll just deal with him. So we move in or we get there, and the house wasn't quite what he said it was. I mean, it's amazing how they put pictures of, but it was right on the beach and it was real close to the town that we wanted to build in. So Joe and I just looked at each other, rolled up our sleeves, and let's just said, go to work. So we started making the place habitable. We put in air conditioning, we put in communications, we put in lights and plumbing, things like that, so you could live there. And things were going along. Well, Adam saw the money we were putting into the place and investing because we had bought 2 other properties down the beach. Nothing in Mexico happens quick. You need a base to work out of while you're building. So this was going to be our base while we were building. So we started looking for property, and we're going back and forth to the United States, and we're coming down, we're storing everything on this property. And Adam starts borrowing money from us. All right. And I felt so bad for the guy. You know, he's down here in Mexico and he's broke and he's got a couple kids. We're loaning him money. And our lease came up for renewal. And I said, Adam, would it make your life easier if we just start paying you a year's rent in advance? All right. I was trying to get out of the position being the guy's bank. I didn't really trust him. I thought there was something a little off about him, but I didn't want to be the bank. So we wrote a new lease. We'll pay him a year in advance. So we pay him the year in advance. And our last year, we paid him in March, and our rent was due in April. So we're good for a whole year up until April of 2022. And by that time, we're ready to move all of our stuff into our house, right? Because we were building down there. So we're really amping it up. We're moving vehicles down. All of our infrastructure, our building materials, everything is going to this property. And it's a rather large property. It's about the length of a football field. Rather large property with 2 casitas on it. So
what's a casita?
We're plugging along. We don't even know there's a problem.
And you said that has 2 what on it?
They're called casitas. So a small house in Mexico.
Gotcha.
It's a casa. It's a casita.
Okay.
Right? So there's 2 little casitas on the property. One casita we use for storage, and I had an office over there. The other casita we were living in. So you can imagine our surprise. We're thinking everything's fine. We paid our rent a year in advance. There's no problem. His wife shows up one day, and she shows up with a lawyer and 20 men. She walks onto the property with her lawyer, and they say, you guys got to get out of here. Excuse me? Her name's Gabriela Cornelio. And she was an architect. I thought this couple was legit. So she's Mexican. He's American. He has Casa Yucatan Construction, and she has Merida Architects. And we're thinking this is a legit couple. This woman shows up at the property with her lawyer, Marco Maya, and these guys. And she says, I have no idea who you people are. Get off my property. Excuse me? Gabriela, we've met. You have been to my house. You have drank wine with me. You have told me how your husband won't pay you any child support. You and I know each other. I have text messages between you and I. She's still swearing she doesn't know us and that we're squatters and everything on the property is hers. Well, now we're starting to see these people are trying to steal everything from us. They don't want us to move out with our stuff. Well, the police get called. And the lawyer steps up and he's got his paperwork saying that we're squatters. And she tells the police that we've only been there for 30 days. We'd been there for 5 years.
Jeez.
Right? For 30 days. So the cops start looking around and they can see everything that we've done. And they see how, and they're even talking to themselves, this couldn't have all been done in 30 days. So my husband says to her, so we get out the lease and we get out the payments to show the police. And we show the lease signed by Adam Kowalski and they show it to her. She says, I don't know this man. She said she didn't know her husband. And my husband steps up and in front of these police, he says to her in Spanish, he says, Gabriela, you have 2 children with this man. She says, I could have children with street dogs for all you know. And this, I'm just watching this. I have never seen anything this crazy in my life. My husband says to her, Gabriela, if you don't know Adam Kowalski, how come all these guys that you brought with you work for him? Well, the cops hear that and they're putting it, and they realize we're getting scammed. This is a Mexican scam going down and they saw it. So they tell them, you guys have to leave. We're not kicking these people out of here. They have rent payments. They have a lease. Their lease isn't up. You have to go. Well, as they're escorting them off the property, and this took 12, 13 hours going back and forth, this brawl out in our yard, right? And the cops finally take them off. And her lawyer is screaming at the top of his lungs, you have no idea who my father is. You have no idea who my father is. We had no idea who his father is, right? I don't know who his father was. Yeah. So they get off the property and we're told by the police, you need to hire lawyers, right? Okay, so we go and we hire lawyers. So the lawyers say, this is really illegal in Mexico. They tried to scam you. Right? If she had been able to, because when she showed up, she had the deed to the property and her name was the only name on the deed. Right? So she says, this is a common scam where one of them will lease you the property, take the money, and then they come and steal everything from you, right? Before you can move out. So that's exactly what we got caught in the middle of. So we asked, well, what do we do? Well, the first thing you need is an order of protection. So we paid, went down to their version of the Attorney General, got an order of protection. Then the lawyers filed civil and criminal lawsuits against both of them, not only for defrauding us, but when she came on the property, she did about $25,000 worth of damage by ripping everything out, right? So we filed a lawsuit. Cops are stopping by every day. Everybody's telling us, you guys are safe. If there's any problem, you call the police. They're right up the road. Well, there's 2 sets of police in Mexico. You have your state police, right, which is the top police, and then you have the little local police. Well, it was all the little local police who were stopping in and checking in on us, but the state police have jurisdiction over the local police. So we think everything's fine. We'd have actually been planned. I told Joe, I said, let's get out before the lease is up, right? We don't trust these people. Let's just get out before the lease is up. So we had already started working, putting everything together, and they came back. But this time when they came back with Cartel. They came back with 40 guys, and these weren't like the 20 guys they brought before. You have to, have you seen the video on the website yet?
No.
When you get a chance, go to mexinoinfo.com, go look at what attacked my house. They came at us with claw hammers and machetes and guns. They came from the back of the house. They came from the front of the house. So it was Joe, my husband, myself, and we had 2 guys working with us. Juan Carlos, his story is amazing. That's a whole nother story. Juan Carlos and Armando. Well, Juan Carlos was up at the front of the house when these thugs started coming down. Well, they chased him all the way down to the back as the thugs are coming up from the back. Well, the thugs from the back say, who are you? And he says, well, I'm with them. And they didn't quite know because they put together this band, they call them choques, right? Where they just get all these cartel thugs together, and their whole purpose is to murder and torture and kill. That's all they do. So Juan Carlos threw himself over the fence that we had. Right next to us was just a field with brush, 10, 12 feet deep. Juan Carlos threw himself over. The attack started on us. Joe and Joe and Armando and I had run out of the house. We saw them coming from both sides, and then they started throwing everything they could at us, rocks and bottles. And we ran back into the house, boarded up the door. And then I started videotaping them. Call the cops, call the cops. So we're videotaping them. You guys help us, somebody get here. We call the police. The attack is still coming. Right? We've got everything boarded up. We've only got part of our animals in. All right, we couldn't get all the animals in. So I'm going to take a breath here because I promise not to cry when I talk to you. They started murdering our animals. They destroyed or burned everything they could get their hands on. We spent the night, the whole field next to us filled up with lights as they were hunting for Juan Carlos. They were going to kill him in front of us if they caught him. And this is all part of the torture. We had barricaded ourselves in the house. About an hour after we got barricaded in, our lawyers had abandoned us. All right, we think they got paid off too. So the lawyers didn't show up, the police didn't show up, and then one of the kids from town, because the townspeople were starting to show up at the front gate. All we had were our cell phones. We have no air, we have no water, we have no communication. They've cut off everything. We're holed up in this little tiny casita, right? One of the kids from town calls us up and says, they're going to kill you. He says, the cops are here with them. They won't let us in. So the Yucatan State Police, led by Saiden Ojeda and Marco Maya Lopez. I just found out who Marco Maya's dad was. He was the #2 commandante at the Yucatan State Police. So they were holding the locals back, and the locals just kept coming and kept coming, and the attacks kept coming in waves. So after the first wave, and literally all we could do in the first wave was hide. We barricaded ourselves and covered ourselves up because things were shattering and breaking, and the noise was ungodly. And then we caught our breath. When they backed off, we sat down and we prayed. We prayed in Spanish and prayed in English, right? And then we talked, said, can we kill somebody? These people are going to kill us. Can we kill them? I'd never had to even think about killing another human being, right? I mean, when you think about actually taking somebody's life with your own hands, you know, and you're in that moment, it's, you know, part of me was like, no, just let them kill us. I don't know if I want to kill somebody. But then we finally decided after we talked about it, okay, if we have to fight, let's kill them, right? So then the next talk we had was, how do we take them on? There's 40 of them, right? There's 3 of us. How do we take this on? So do you remember the story about the Battle of Thermopylae, the 300? And you remember how 300 Spartans took on 40,000 Persians by funneling them through a little canyon? Well, the narrowest part of our house was a stairwell. Came up one way and up this way, but they could only fit 2 of them up a time. So we said, okay, we're going to hide out upstairs. If they got to get to us, they're going to have to come up the stairs because we can take them on 2 at a time. We can't take them on 40 at a time. Then the next thing, then we started Googling with a little bit of battery we had left. How do you make weapons out of ordinary household items? So the first thing we started doing was we started making Molotov cocktails. We had that kerosene fluid from the tiki torches. So we started taking bottles, making kerosene Molotov cocktails. Then we got all the Raid cans in the house. In Mexico, you need Raid. So we had a bunch of Raid cans. Now we had blow torches. Then we got every knife out of the kitchen. We got everything heavy. So any big vases, our hand weights, computer towers, anything that had weight, we got that all together. Then I went downstairs and I got all the oil in the house and I covered the downstairs floor with oil. And then I covered the stairs with oil and bleach and shampoo. We had to give ourselves any kind of fighting chance that we could. And then we waited. We barricaded ourselves in and we waited. Now, by this time, there's more and more townspeople getting up at the front. Like I lived outside this little tiny fishing village called Telchec Puerto. It's a 2,000-year-old Mayan fishing village. Almost the entire dang town was in front of our house. And they're all trying to get in because most of them know us. We had friends there. And they're calling us and they're freaking out because the cops are out there, and the chokeys are getting worried because the sun's starting to come up and it's only a matter of time before the local police get there and push their way through. And the thing is really getting escalated. We can see them. I mean, they'd carried everything out of the house. We watched them carrying out a freezer full of meat. They emptied the bar, every light in the property they took off. There's even one video on the Mexico info site. They're walking out of the casito with salt and pepper in their hands. I mean, anything they could steal, they stole. Anything they could kill, they killed. And then they realized we were getting up to crunch time and they still hadn't been able to rob us. And we could see them. They were gathering. Guys, are you ready? Guys, are you ready? So Joe's on the phone and he's got like this broomstick, right? And Armando and I are at the stairwell, and the first two come up, and Armando grabs this giant vase and just bam, and you should see it just pottery flying everywhere, but they kept coming. So we started with the Molotov cocktails, and you could hear them screaming, "Fuego, fuego!" And that's when they first started running. I told Armando, get all the fire out, because they don't like fire. Let's get the fire out. So then we got the blow torches, and Joe was screaming. Pretty soon they figured out they couldn't get up the stairs, right? As soon as they figured they couldn't get us to the stairs, they started crawling up the sides of the house. Jeez. Right? Over the balconies. As a matter of fact, I even put pictures of that up. You can see this one guy, and they all wearing masks, right? I mean, just terrifying. So they're coming over the balconies. Joe has got a broomstick and he's hitting one. He's screaming into the phone, "Get up here. They're going to kill us. They're going to kill us. Get in here now." And he's screaming that up to the guys at the front. And this kid from town, his name is Luis. And Luis is young. He's got a big, wide smile, big brown eyes. The kid's one of those kids. He doesn't know how broke he is. His family doesn't know how poor they are. They think everybody cooks on stones out in the front yard. Right? He doesn't know how poor he is. He says, "We live in the glory." The kid is happy to be in the game. This little boy steps in front of these chokeys, in front of these crooked cops, with the press and the townspeople behind him. And this child says to them, "You are all demons of Satan. And Jesus Christ is watching everything that you are doing. And I command all of you in the name of Jesus Christ to drop your weapons." And they dropped their weapons. And the town people rushed in, and it was like cockroaches all over the building. And you saw them as the townspeople came in, you saw them recede back to the beach and take off running. And we were literally minutes away from being murdered. And they're the ones who got us out.
Holy shit.
You got goosebumps me telling you this, huh?
I do. Gotta be honest. Not helping the rippling of the anxiety. I'm just listening to it. I'm like, this is no, but it's putting into perspective. Like, Jesus.
So let me take you to the next step. So you remember how I told you how I studied before we went down there? I studied all the wrong stuff. I was reading the hype that the United States was printing. I hadn't gone to the Mexican press. So I started going to the Mexican press. Want to hear what I found out? Buckle up for this, Buttercup.
Don't come here if you're white. I don't know.
Well, the reason why stories like what I just told you, and there's a lot of them, right, never make it up to the United States is because they murder their journalists. There are more journalists murdered in Mexico every single year than every other country combined. Now, let me give you another shocking one. They also kill more Americans than any other country out there. Less than 2% of these murders will ever be prosecuted. I wish I could say what we saw in Matamoros was the exception, not the rule. It's not. There have been over 700 kidnappings in Mexico of Americans in just the last year alone. Kidnapping is a big business. COVID came along and the country spiraled quickly. Their tourism died. People got hungrier. You have this whole influx coming across the border. The cartels and the cops are one and the same, and they are recruiting at an all-time record. The other thing that's going on with El Chapo being detained and arrested here in the United States, you have all these baby cartels popping up everywhere, and they're all jockeying for position. Well, they all need money, and the two big money makers in Mexico for these cartels, everybody knows fentanyl is number one. Number two is kidnapping. Kidnapping Americans is big business. And if you go to Mexico and you get kidnapped, as I found out, as we were calling the embassy, when we realized that it was the cops and the cartel outside of our door, and we called our embassy, they told us there was nothing that we could do. Good luck.
Isn't there something called K&R insurance, kidnapping and ransom?
Well, you can get insurance all you want, but
Oh no,
what?
no, I know. I'm just trying to. That popped into my head. I don't know where I'd heard that
Oh no,
before.
you can get insurance for that kind of stuff. But why would you want to go on vacation somewhere where you got to get kidnapping insurance?
Yeah, I know,
You know,
right?
and that's the thing. Getting out is going to be just as bad. So if you go to the website, I put up a story of Dustin Chapman. Dustin got hit not too long after I did. See, they want to get their hands on you. It's not just robbing you of everything you own. They want you to open up your phone and your computers, and they want you to empty out your bank accounts. Right? So if they get their hands on you, what they will do is they will put you on your knees and they will open your computer and they'll start asking you for user IDs and passwords and PIN numbers. And every time you don't give them a correct answer, they will cut off a finger. Well, they got a hold of Dustin and they robbed him. Well, they didn't decide to cut off fingers on him. They started chopping him up with a machete. And they thought that they had killed him and they thought that they had cut his Achilles tendon to ensure that he was dead. And then they dumped him in the jungle. And Dustin laid there for 3 days. And then he finally crawled out. And when he crawled out, he says he doesn't even know how he found the strength. But when he crawled out, he was laying on the side of the road and a female cop picked him up. And she bandaged him up on the side of the road. She put him in her truck and she took him to the airport. She didn't take him to the hospital. She took him to the airport. She told him, get out of this country. It was the police that did this to you. And everything you're hearing coming out of Mexico is just nonsense. Do you have a question right now? Because I can
No,
see it.
I'm just thinking aloud. How do you even deal with a failed state like that? I mean, do you just kind of come back to Fortress America and move away from the border? Like what? How
Yeah.
do you even deal with a failed state?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you brought up the United States. So I'm a firm believer everybody should have to travel outside the United States. Everybody. And you should spend a good year or two out. Don't just go for a vacation. Go and immerse yourself in a culture somewhere around the world, because you will come back knowing to your core that this is the greatest country on the face of the planet, and she is worth saving. The only ones in Mexico right now who have got weapons are the criminals. The cartels and the cops are one and the same. I am loving watching our elected officials. Have you been catching Dan Crenshaw on Twitter? And he's tweeting over to Hector Vasconcelos. Hector he's the old ambassador to Denmark. Like tweeting your anger at this old Mexican ambassador is going to do any good. I think it's all for show what we're seeing.
Of course.
The ones that our elected officials need to talk to if they want a solution are the cartels. The government officials in Mexico answer to the cartels. And this is a very simple premise to prove. Let me take you on a little bit of a history jog here. So do you remember Ovidio Guzman, El Chapo's son, being arrested a few months ago?
No.
29 people got killed in that arrest.
Oh, yes, I think so.
So they caught Ovidio Guzman. Biden was coming down to the border. He's going to go to Mexico. So he gets down to El Paso. And do you remember how clean they got El Paso? Well, they didn't clean El Paso up for us. We already know what a nightmare is going on at the Mexican border. They cleaned El Paso up so AMLO, President Obrador, could save face with the people. See, look at what I'm doing. They have nothing on us, right? We're good Mexicans. And then President Biden was going to toddle on into Mexico City, and they were going to hand over Ovidio Guzman. By the way, Ovidio now heads up a cartel called Los Chapitos, right? He doesn't even run the Sinaloa. Another guy named Meyer runs the Sinaloa, and he is nuts, right? So Ovidio's got a cartel called Los Chapitos. We're going to catch him, turn him over to the United States, and see what we're doing to clean up the border. But if you remember what happened, Biden gets to Mexico, and AMLO basically tells him, you're not doing enough, and your people are all drug addicts and basically deserve what's coming your way. And Biden pushed back a little bit, but if you read between the lines, what you were seeing was AMLO was given a tip of the hat to the cartels. I'm not doing anything to interfere with your business. And he didn't. And then we never got Ovidio Guzman, did we?
Mm.
right? Now, let me really make it good. So I'm going to tie it all together for you. So you saw what happened to Madam Morris, and then the cartels felt bad, and they wrote an apology note and said, here's the guys who did it. Do you believe that for a second?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. What you're seeing, we call this in Mexico, the muchacho hustle. So here's how it works. Oh, the Americans are mad. We're going to kill spring break. Let's give them 5 guys. All right, my friends, I need 5 of you to volunteer. We're going to pay each 10,000 pesos, which is more money than they've ever seen. All right, we'll volunteer. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to say you're the bad guys. They're going to lock you up for a couple months. We're going to pay you guys to go to jail for a couple months. We'll take care of your families. And as soon as this blows over, we're going to let you out the back door. Now, ask me where Ovidio Guzman is today.
Where's Ovidio Guzman?
Ovidio Guzman is El Chapo's son, who was supposed to be extradited to the United States. They let him go 3 days ago.
Ah, of course.
The muchacho hustle. See, we got him locked up. We're doing our thing. Everybody forgot about it. And Ovidio's back on the streets. So there will never be an arrest in what you saw happen in Mexico. What you did see happen in Mexico wasn't a mistake by the cartel. That was a kidnapping attempt. That was a kidnapping, actually. And nothing would have ever happened with that but for the fact that that video got out. You would have never seen our politicians jump the way they're jumping, but for the press jumping in on this, right? What was really telling, first of all, these thugs don't do anything without the cops and the elected officials knowing. Very simple premise to prove. Did you see the video of them loading the bodies onto the back of the truck?
Mm-mm.
So they're loading the bodies on. I want you to go and listen again, and you can hear the guys talking. What they're saying in Spanish is, look how they throw the bodies on the truck like a bunch of pigs. And then they say, and the cops stand by and do nothing, which makes me think that there are cops sitting outside the frame, which makes perfectly good sense because anybody who's been to Madam Morris, first of all, Madam Morris literally translates to dead children.
Jeez.
I know you love that.
It's like bad fiction writing. Like
it is. I mean,
like
Lord
of the Rings, like they called it Mount Doom, and it's like
right.
It's so uncreative. It's called Dead Children. Like,
so Madam Morris is a very bustling and crime-ridden border town. There is a cop on every single street. So let's just assume there wasn't a cop on that block when that happened. You think one of them heard those gunshots? But if you watch them load the bodies up, they're taking their time. They know nobody's going to stop them, and they know nobody's going to interfere. Excuse me. And they know nobody's going to interfere. And that's because the cartels and the cops are all in on it. So then what we saw was Ambassador Ken Salazar jump onto a plane, fly out to Mexico City because he knows exactly what I just told you. You guys know who did this, and if they're alive, you better give them back because we got congressmen and senators who want to declare war on you now. So give them back. And AMLO went to his cartel buddies and said, okay, we got to make this right. How do we do this? We'll just write them an apology note. They'll get over it. Those Americans are stupid. By the way, if you read any of the Mexican press today, they are calling us stupid. They're calling us stupid. They've totally vilified these people they attacked. They said 2 of them had criminal rap sheets, but they've totally turned them into the criminals, which is Mexico's thing to do. So Mexico, anytime an American comes out who's been attacked, they're going to come in and say what the American did was wrong and they deserved it. And that's how Mexico is painting this right now.
So what is going to happen? Is it all empty bluster when they're saying they're going to put legislation forward for a U.S. invasion of Mexico? Is this all just bluster?
Well, nobody's thinking. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the logistics. You've got more than 3 million Americans in Mexico right now. There is already chatter on the social media of the cartels that if they want to get El Chapo back, or if the Americans get froggy, all they have to do is kidnap a hotel. All they have to do is kidnap a busload of Americans. These guys are like ISIS. So it used to be the cartels were kind of like the mafia, like the old Italian mafia. They'd roll into town and they were benefactors, which is why you see so many people in the streets take up for the cartels, right? They, like when COVID hit, it wasn't the government of Mexico making sure the people were fed. The cartels were going into these towns and feeding people, right? And then they caught El Chapo. When they caught El Chapo, you had the new generation cartel up in Cancun pop up. When that one popped up, it was different. They're very Machiavellian. They think it's better to be feared than loved. As a matter of fact, and this is probably writing on the wall, about 3 months before we got hit, I was in Tulum, and the cartel guys had just blown through collecting money from the merchants, and the merchants who didn't pay them, they decapitated and they stacked their heads on the street corner. Very ISIS-like, right? Very, very ISIS-like. It has brought, and the other thing is they're grabbing the kids younger and younger coming across the border, and they drug these kids up and they arm them and they put them on the street. And these kids are willing to do anything. Right. And they don't care. Killing an American is killing an American. As a matter of fact, I got off a boat in Playa del Carmen. Kid could have been more than 12, 13 years old. And his eyes were all bloodshot and glassy. I'm not sure what he was on. And he comes up and he's all frantically trying to sell me drugs. And I tell him in Spanish, I said, little one, I said, the cartels will kill you for this. Cartels, they'll kill you for this. This child looks at me with his crazy eyes. He says, Yo soy un cartel. I am the cartel. And I was like, we're sunk.
Yeah.
They're putting them out on the street younger and younger. They drug them up. They tell them what to do. And these kids will do anything because they know if they don't do it, they'll get killed.
Yeah.
Right. And it's an untenable position. So we declare war and start going after these cartels. They will start beheading Americans. All right. Now, I still think you can get to the cartels. I think the first thing you have to do is economically stifle them. I think you have to close the border. I think you have to put out a notice, tell all Americans to get out. And the Americans that are following this should know what that means, right? And tell them, you got 60 days, get out. Get out, all right? And then they need to put an ultimatum to these cartels and to the Mexican government. And if the Mexican government doesn't do something about it, which they won't. Like I said, they answer to the cartels. Our elected officials are negotiating with the wrong people. If they don't, then you'd have to go in kind of like we did with Soleimani over in the Middle East, and you have to surgically eradicate these guys. Now, the nice thing about the cartels, these little cockroaches that follow them don't have a brain amongst them. They are some of the stupidest, most vilest human beings you've ever met. They work with this pack mentality, and they only get brave when they're in a pack. You'd never see one of these guys step up to a guy like you or a guy like my husband, right? They couldn't take you on. They have to come after you in a pack, and they have to be armed to the teeth, and they're going to get you with a sucker punch. They're not going to let you know they're coming. They're going to sucker punch you in the side of their head, right? So you have to take out the heads because those are the smart guys. And then when you take out a few heads, and if somebody decides to take their place, you take them out too. And you just keep taking out the head. You know what? We'd be doing a huge favor for the locals too. It is not safe. I feel so bad for my Mexican friends that still live there. You know, and that's something else I want to talk about as long as you got me on a roll here.
Keep going. No, keep going.
So, you know, I didn't know what to believe when Trump said that they're not sending over their best and brightest until I lived down there for half a decade. So in the little village that I lived in, they cook on rocks out in front of their house, and the men sing in the street at night. The kids play in the street. They're not all plugged in, and their joys are huge and their sorrows are great, and everybody parties together, and we cook together, and we always find something to eat for somebody, and everybody fishes, and they would never leave that life.
Sure.
To come to the United States. What is coming across the border, and all you have to do is look at it, is what attacked my house. And if you look at what's in the United States right now, we have cartels in the United States. As a matter of fact, during El Chapo's trial, they asked him which politicians in the United States had been bribed. And right as he started to speak, they cleared the courtroom and they turned off the microphones. They wouldn't let anybody listen to that. Because we have politicians, I am confident to say, that are in the cartel's hands, which is why you have not seen them close the border. We have 100,000 Americans dying from fentanyl overdoses. Isn't it by like every 3 months or something? I'm not an expert on that. I don't keep track of but I know that we have an ungodly amount of our children dying from these fentanyl overdoses. And China supplies the fentanyl to the cartels, and the cartels push it across the border. And all these thugs coming across the border, if you think that they're coming across because they want to be Americans, because they believe in the American dream, because they're here to assimilate, they are not. They have one allegiance and one allegiance only, and that is back to the cartel that got them across the border. And if that cartel tells them to kill one of us, they will kill one of us. And it is only a matter of time before we see the cartels taking on U.S. law enforcement in our streets. But when the cartels fight, they don't break out Uzis and AK-47s. They get out 50-millimeter guns. They are fighting with U.S.-grade military weapons. And that brings me back to Ovidio Guzman. So Ovidio Guzman, this last time that he got arrested, where 29 people were killed, that's the second time he was arrested. I'm going to tell you another story that's going to blow you away. 2019, I'm down in Mexico, and they go to get Ovidio Guzman, and they start live streaming it on Facebook. The entire country was watching, right? People were glued. They had to see the country. So they go in to get Ovidio Guzman, and sicarios start coming from all over. And you can see the cops getting nervous, and everybody's got guns. And they tell Ovidio, you call your guys off. You call your guys off. And one of Ovidio's captains is on the phone. And Ovidio tells him in Spanish, he says, listen, call everybody back. It's going to be cool. The lawyers will get me out. And you hear this kid on the other side of the phone say, F that. And you knew war was about to break out. And we all saw it. So as a matter of fact, when he said that, you should have seen the look around the table. Oh my God. They get Ovidio Guzman down the driveway. They are surrounded by sicarios and pickup trucks with 50-millimeter guns on the back. And a sicario gets out, and he tells the captain of the police, you turn Ovidio Guzman loose. Captain says, we can't do that. He says, then we're going to kill all of you. Every last one of you. And when we're done killing all of you, we're going to your homes. We're going to kill your wives. We're going to kill your children. We're going to kill your dogs. And when we're done with that, we're going to go kill your families. Then we're going to kill your neighbors. Turn the kid loose. And they turned him loose. Now, if they're willing to do that to their own military, you think they have any more respect for Americans or American police?
So, I mean, it's kind of the tale's oldest time. The only language they speak is violence.
Well, it's because this is what happens in a country where the only ones who have weapons are the bad guys. Now, it's kind of funny because I've been talking to my Mexican friends down there. I say, what's the solution? Because they don't want Americans coming in. And they said they need to arm the people. They said, we'll have a few bloody years, but we'll get rid of the cartels ourselves. So it's kind of interesting that the people there are looking for a solution. We're looking for a solution. But in the meantime, we've got to quit spending our money down there. So if you're thinking about going for spring break, just don't. Right? If you want to know great places in the United States to go, I've been everywhere. I can tell you some great beach spots to go where you're not going to get kidnapped. If you do have to go with a group. One of your most dangerous times is going to be when you get off that airplane, because you're going to jump in a cab thinking it's going to take you somewhere. You don't know who's connected and who's not. They will drive you right to the arms of the cartel. So that's, by the way, what happened to Dustin. So Dustin got into a cab. They drove him straight to the cartel. And they proceeded to chop him up, right? Now, if they find out that your family has money, they'll just keep you. So there's another story on the website. One American they kept him for 7 months. They kept him in a coffin, and they tortured him for 7 months because they could take videos of the torture, send it to his family, and his family kept sending money. Now, you didn't see Ken Salazar get on a plane for that. Ken Salazar won't take a phone call from me. You didn't see Ken Salazar step in for Dustin. I could go on with one American after another American. The only reason the United States got involved, the only reason I believe this administration got involved was because that video got out. So if you go down to Mexico, you have to have a kidnapping plan, and you have to have a brawling plan. You better be ready to brawl, right? So I just don't know if it's worth it. I mean,
no, not at all.
To be held hostage in your resort, and even the resorts aren't safe. If you want to see some great shootings at the resorts in Cancun over the last couple of years, I put those up too. I have a new one that's going up. Two of my friends down there, and they're getting ready to leave. We're over on the Cancun side at a resort. Said it was, we trusted this place. We've been here we've come here for 15 years. It went into the bathroom. 4 men followed him in, locked the doors behind him, pulled guns on him, tried to kidnap him. And before they could get him out of the bathroom, the manager came running over with the key and a bunch of the employees, and they saved these two. Right. And they're leaving. Right. But those are the stories that never make it out. And the thing is, you don't want to become one of those stories, because I got to tell you, the worst part about a Mexican kidnapping, if you survive, is what you're going to go through up here afterwards, because it's torture. They're playing those flashbacks, watching them kill the animals over and over and over in my head, knowing how we've been scammed, right? Everything about this thing was so unholy and so demonic and so black, right? I can't even describe it. And, I think about this, and I think what's so hard for me to process this is because I can't even imagine doing something like this to somebody. I tell this story to you right now, I feel like I'm telling you, hey, Tommy, I saw a spaceship and all these green men came out and it was awesome. You should have been there, right? I mean, it sounds so crazy, but I'm not the exception. This happens a lot. So don't go. Cut off the money, start demanding from our elected officials. I don't want to see them in a Twitter war with a former ambassador. You're blowing smoke, right? Close the border. Close the border. Stop the drugs and quit sending our people there. And then start telling Americans, get out. And once you get the Americans out, Katie barred the door, go after them. You have ISIS on the back. We have ISIS at the back door. Just with the Mexican version.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll surgically remove them in the Middle East, and then someone replaces them, and we remove them too. And we'll do that for decades. And everyone kind of understands it's an endless war. It's more so of a maintenance, but then we won't do it in our own backyard. Like if we're going to do an endless war, that there's really no winning, you just kind of maintain the lead, then it might as well be the one in our back door.
Well, the thing is this, you have to understand that this endless war that they put on overseas has just been a moneymaker for a lot.
Yeah, well, that's the
right.
That's
when
the
you got the cartels paying off U.S. officials, they're never going to go to war. Yeah. And this is the war you want to have. This is at our back door, right? This is at our back door.
Yeah, I feel like everybody could win. The military-industrial complex could get their cash flow on. I mean, it's the oldest cartel of all time, right? We've been doing it. Smedley Butler talked about it in like 1902. War is a racket. I get it. I'm not naive to that. Just do it in Mexico. Like if we're gonna do the endless war, if we're gonna build all the machinery and give the DoD $800 billion a year, clearly that's not going to stop. Every time a president tries to stop it, they get their head blown off. All right, whatever. Just do it in Mexico then. Like
I think they have economic incentives for getting this right. So if AMLO, and by the way, AMLO today is just, God, I wish you could have heard his press conference earlier today. He's the Mexican Joe Biden. I mean, the guy, just things come out of his mouth and it is just one lie after another. He's trying to do away with voter ID. The people are losing their minds, right? Because they know this is a power grab. But they have an economic incentive. We are the largest trading partner for them. They make a lot of money off the United States. That's why I'm saying stop the money first. If that's not enough pain, all right? If that's not enough pain for them to knock this off, then start taking out their cartels. The combination of the financial pain, because they are on our back door, it's not like you're flying halfway around the world to go fight this battle, right? They are right there. The other thing you have to do is you have to kick out every single illegal immigrant in this country. Do you know what you have to do if you want to live in Mexico? Ask me what I had to do.
What did you have to do?
I'll play your silly game. Let me tell you what I had to do. So the first thing I had to do is I had to give them my financials. I'd show them that I could live for 5 years and never be a drain on the Mexican government. Then I had to sign something saying I would never take a job from a Mexican local. I would never take a job in Mexico. They don't want us taking their jobs. Then I had to sign something saying that I would never participate in a political protest. And then I had to go through a health check to make sure I was healthy.
All
Yeah, I think we should have the same rules for people coming into the United States. But you've got so many bad actors in the country right now that are just waiting for one of these cartels to call the shot that you can't play Russian roulette with it. You have to get rid of all of the illegal immigrants. You have to close the border and you have to stop the money. Do those three things, we might not have to go to war. But if that doesn't work, you have to take these guys out. They are that deadly. They are that power hungry.
And I also, just as my own, I guess, disclaimer, I'm also aware that I never served in the military, and to all my military friends who are watching this, I don't want to be that guy who's like, "Why don't you just send in the military?" And they're like, "It's not that easy." Like, I get that as well. That I'm looking at it through the eyes of a 32-year-old with a biology degree who does a podcast. Like, I'm very aware that I'm not, I guess, seasoned in geopolitics and global military expeditions. But I mean, at a certain point, it is a failed state. Like Canada sucks, but it's like above us, and they're not a threat. Whatever. I'm just kidding. I mean, I have friends in Canada, but I mean, Mexico is a genuine failed state with warring cartels who have, I mean, their own armored vehicles and air support, like right below us. It's not.
Well, let me walk you through it then, Tommy. Okay. So if Mexico was sending drones across the border
Which
that
they
were
are.
killing our children,
Like okay, like Reaper drones.
okay, if they were sending drones, right, would that be an act of war?
Absolutely.
They're killing our children by the hundreds of thousands. Is that not an act of war?
No, it is, but it's
They're killing us on both sides of the border. They're killing us on this side, and if we cross the border, right, they'll take our money and they'll kill us, right? When do we say, as we like to say in Mexico, basta, no más, basta? It's over, right? The reason why they are so out of control right now is because nobody has ever told them no. Nobody has ever pushed back. And their own government certainly isn't going to do it. AMLO answers to the cartels. Anybody who thinks the cartels answer to AMLO, you've got it wrong. And everybody in Mexico knows it.
Oh, I mean, full disclosure, despite the fact that I don't have any military experience, I don't give a shit. I think we should pummel them. I think that's the only thing people answer to. Excuse my French, but I think it's the only thing anyone around the world answers to for since the dawn of time is the iron fist of violence. No one's going to answer to, mean tweets or campaign slogans. If you want them to stop, you got to put a bomb through their center. You got to shoot them in the head. Like, I'm all for that. I don't hold any punches. My disclaimer is that I'm aware that I don't have any experience with that, and it's easy for me to sound like a tough guy having never actually gone into combat or something. But I'm with you. I tell everybody to leave, and then just carpet bomb them if they do anything. I personally don't care. Like take them.
Well,
I don't give a shit.
Mexico. Mexico's a wonderful. I mean, there are parts of Mexico. There's parts of Mexico I fell in love with the country. You're talking to
you, sure.
Mexico's biggest cheerleader.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, beautiful.
I had immersed myself into the culture. I had immersed myself into the history, right? My favorite days were spent tripping around 2,000-year-old ancient cities, right? So you're talking to somebody who's done a complete 180. So I want you to ask your friends in the military, does my 22 hours of brawling with the cartel qualify as service?
I think yours would. I haven't, which is why I have to.
Knowing what I've seen, you got to take them out.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
There was a level of inhumanity and a level of sheer evil that I haven't seen since the days of ISIS beheading folks over in the Middle East. You remember watching those videos and just being so shocked at how inhuman they were?
I have seen those videos, and I remember we would watch them in college like normal kids. We'd be like super shit-faced after the bar, and we'd watch ISIS videos, and I'm not even making a joke. The cartel videos were always worse. People like we'd watch ISIS, and then as soon as someone pulled up Mexican cartel, they'd be like, "I don't want to watch those," because they were worse. Like, you kind of got used to the ISIS ones. It was like, yeah, they're gonna put you in an orange jump coat and behead you. Like, all right, like I saw the first 10. The cartel ones were always worse.
when you go to my site, when you see there's some that I put disclaimers on, this is pretty graphic. Don't open those.
Okay. I think just, let me just check. I think I put your site in the description, for anybody listening right now. Let me just make sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, I think they should send down again. Let's see. Did I put it in there? No, I did not put here. I'll put it in there after this. I mean, again, I know we kind of tried this in the Middle East and it didn't necessarily work, but I mean, I feel like there's got to be something to just going down, sending Delta Force or DevGru down and just popping the leaders, and then as the leaders get filled, you pop them. I mean, if it's true that the vast majority of these organizations are just mindless followers who don't have any tactical mind or wisdom of their own, it would make sense. Again, as the person who's never served in the military, I understand him being a armchair general, but I feel like that would make sense, right? Just reach over and just whoever's number one, just shoot him in the face. And after the 10th time that happens, does the next guy really want to ascend the throne, or does he just say screw this?
Well, and you'd hope that would work. Well, that's why I'm advocating first for cutting them off at the knees economically. Mexico's got some serious problems right now. The economy has hit them hard. They are broke. They are unemployed. Inflation is going through the roof. So if we literally cut the faucet off, you could bring them to their knees quick. If they did decide to fight, here's the problem with fighting the cartels, something else you should consider. Do you realize that the cartels now control 40% of the land mass of Mexico?
Yeah.
It's a mess. And we've armed them. They're fighting us with their own weapons. We've armed them. So, yeah, I do think that you have to stranglehold them financially. And then if you can't bring them to their knees, you start killing them. And I can't believe I'm actually saying that, because you're talking to somebody who's been a pacifist most of my life. Right? Like I said, what was so hard for me was I couldn't even imagine doing that to somebody. I couldn't even imagine, just look at Matamoros. Can you imagine if 4 Mexicans crossed over into Texas, and were surrounded by 4 Texans who shot them up, kidnapped them? You would see every law enforcement agency in the country scouring the streets.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't see that in Mexico. That's how you know that the government was in on it.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's not even that they're a failed state. It's a captured state. A failed state, I guess.
No, it's a corrupt state. It's a dirty, filthy, corrupt state. And the sad thing is there's the things about Mexico that are wonderful are amazing. Merida, which is the oldest city in all of the Americas. There have been people continuously living in Merida, which is the ancient Mayan city of Tho, for over 2,000 years. There are streets in Merida you walk down and you think you are stepping into Europe 500 years ago. There are haciendas that are still furnished with the furniture from 500 years ago, right? There are cenote pools that you jump into and it feels like you are swimming in Evian water. It is so clean. There are birds where the colors bring tears to your eyes. The water in places, there's a part of the ocean where the Caribbean meets with the Gulf Green, and on one side it's that aqua blue, and on the other side it's emerald green, and there's a line straight in between, and you're in God's country. There are things in Mexico worth saving. But the vile, ugly, nasty, vicious, corrupt, disgusting, despicable underbelly that will kill, maim, rape, and torture at will for sport ruins the whole thing. None of it is worth it. It's like if I made you this beautiful birthday cake, and it's the best tasting cake in the world, but then I let my dog come in and take a big dump on it. Are you eating any of it? No, I'm not eating any of it, because the whole thing is polluted. AMLO is corrupt. Every politician that I've run into out there is corrupt. The failed governor of the Yucatan, Mauricio Villa, is as corrupt as they come. Saiden Ojeda, who runs the Yucatan SSP. Let's talk about this a little bit. Let's go how deep this goes. So in Mexico, when they get crooked cops, they don't fire them. They just move them to another state. So there's this boy by the name of Saiden Ojeda. And Saiden was working over in Cancun. And what Saiden was doing as a cop was he was running protection for the cartels during their executions. So when they wanted to kidnap Americans or execute somebody, he would do what they did at my house and put cops around and block everybody and let these cartels go in and do what they needed to do. They killed a little boy, and they had to move Saiden. So they moved Saiden to the Yucatan. Saiden brought all of the cartels, or brought his cartels with him. They opened up their drug trade. They started their shakedowns. They started their kidnappings. Things that we didn't see in the Yucatan when I first got there became mainstay. Right. Well, I can tell you about Saiden. There's a lot to tell you about Saiden Ojeda because he is as corrupt as they come. But he works. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. So the new video going up, and I'll have it up today. The cartels in Cancun, you talk about balls the size of Texas. The cartels in Cancun put up a video to the police in the Yucatan, specifically to Comandante Saiden Ojeda, basically tell them, stay out of our drug business. We're killing you, we're killing your men, we're killing your guys. They got a guy who works in one of the bureaucracies in Yucatan. They call him the top flower. And that's the top flower. And that is... I love their mafia names.
That's
and that's Saiden's right-hand guy. So they sent a video to the top flower and the head of the Yucatan State Police saying, stay out of our drug business. We're killing all of you. Who does that? Can you imagine bad guys here sending videos like that to the FBI? If you think you're going to break up our bank robbery, come near us and we'll kill you.
They bulldoze you.
Crathis, huh? So this is the
gas
mentality that you're trying to negotiate with, right? How do you negotiate with this kind of
it comes
insanity?
back to you don't negotiate with it. You militarize the border. That's what you do, is you cut it off like the cancer it is, and if it comes near it, you treat it with chemotherapy, and that is you bleach it and burn it from the face of the fucking earth. It's the only way you can deal with this shit.
So now my question to you is this. You're 32.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you figure this out and our elected officials can't get this?
Well, I think most people do know, and it's a sad conclusion to come to because we all want to be better people. We all want to say the world's got to be better than that. But then there is just the reality of things. And it's the minute you start to examine it and you realize it's very easy to have these nice, lofty ideas when your bills are paid and you have food and you have water and your internet works. But the reality is just below our border, there are people who will remove your head and videotape it and send it back to your family. That's not, you've lost your human card. You've lost the right to be negotiated with.
When do you run for office?
Me? Never. I think you should run for office, though.
Don't get me started. I'm half tempted to.
I don't know why you wouldn't. Why not? You have the story. See, but again, there's the thing is because if I say it, this just I'm a guy who's just screaming about something I haven't dealt with. You actually have dealt with it. So it doesn't matter if I have an opinion that you agree with. There's no experience behind it. You actually have experience and you could actually run on something of substance.
Do you want to know why I'm not running?
Because they'll target you?
Well, no, because when I'm not doing interviews, I say the F word too much.
Who cares? It's like love him or hate him. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. They infuriate.
No, Donald Trump, love Trump or hate Trump, he completely dissolved the entire I could never run for office because of,
That's true.
He has shattered all prerequisites. It doesn't matter anymore. He can do anything. It doesn't matter. He has brought it down to the layman.
Who do you like in the next presidential?
I'd like Trump, but I don't know if he'll get it.
How do you like, well, I think he's going to get it. And I like DeSantis. And this is the only reason. Don't get me wrong. I think Trump was necessary. I think Trump came in and ripped the top off and we got to see all the cockroaches, right?
Sure.
But I think DeSantis brings a level of...
a little more polished.
Well, and there's just a real level-headed...
That's what I mean.
The deadliness to him. Like, because Trump, he got in, he should have cleaned house when he was in. I mean, look what they did. It's insane. I never thought that I would live to see anything like this going on in our country. And I never thought I would live to see our border bleeding the way it bleeds.
Yeah, I mean
You're
that
100% right. They did lose their human card. And what everybody has to understand is they won't stop. They will keep, they're already making incursions into the United States. There's already cartel murders in the United States. Give it some time. If you let this cancer grow, it will take over the entire body. Somebody brought up an interesting argument. They said we should just turn our gangs loose on the cartels, right? Well, you can't. MS-13 has come in and effectively castrated the U.S. gang, right? Gangs, when I grew up, Crips, the Bloods, they're not what they used to be. This is MS-13. It's all these guys from Mexico and Honduras that are running the streets now.
but that's also such a not what you said. The idea of release your gangs on them. That's such like a bitch card. Just nut up and use the $800 billion military you have. Release the gangs on them. That's like saying my older brother is going to beat up my bully. No, stop being a pussy and do it yourself.
Well, there's a lot of there's actually a strategy to that. So are you watching what's going on in Russia right now?
What, Russia, Ukraine? Just the
Yeah.
general clusterfuck of that?
Well, so you know what Putin's been putting up on the front line?
Oh yeah, yeah, inmates.
Inmates. So he's putting all the thugs on the front line. They're the cannon fodder. And he did that to wear out the Ukrainian army. So if you've watched what's happened in the last month, now he's bringing in the real boys. Now you're actually starting to see some destruction, right? And Ukraine's worn down because a lot of that money never made it to the front line. We're laundering money over there really quick, right?
Of course it didn't. Yeah.
So now they are underfunded, underarmed, and Russia's finally getting up to bat because Russia's just been burning off their gang members as cannon fodder.
Pretty dark, but yeah.
I think that, and I shouldn't say anything, but because I don't know. I just think that sometime within the next 3 months, we're either going to see Ukraine fall or we're going to see World War III start.
Yeah, I'd venture to say that. Yeah. I don't like it, but yeah. I think it'll be the former. I think we'll keep it. I think we'll keep the charade going so long as we can charade, so long as we can keep laundering money. But I think once it comes to a point of any real threat to any actual assets like NATO or the United States, that we'll just abandon it. Look what we just did to Kabul. Look what we did to Saigon. We'll if it actually gets bad and we've run the propaganda machine to the nth degree, we'll just leave. Like we've done that before and we will do it again. Like we'll just leave. So that's what I think it will be. I think we're going to keep saying Slava Ukraine, defend democracy, and then one day we're going to come out and say, listen, the world's a chessboard and there are certain measurements you have to make. Fuck it.
Well, but the thing is this, we had no business being in half those skirmishes.
None of them.
Around the world, we have no vital U.S. interests. What we got going on across the border is a vital U.S. interest.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, I guess a year and a month ago, most of America couldn't point out Ukraine on a map. And within 30 days, they had the majority of the people marching with a Ukraine flag in their social media profile. So the brainwashing apparatus is very efficient. Just turn that apparatus onto we gotta defend, we gotta destroy Mexico. These people will stop thinking. They'll put an American flag in their social media profile and say like Slava America. They don't care. And I think as long as the military and I know this sounds dark, but I'm just trying to be a realist. As long as the military can keep getting their paycheck, I don't think they care if it's Ukraine or Mexico. They just want to keep bombing shit. So
That's true. I agree with that.
it's
I agree.
dark, but it's
Well, that brings me to something else too. I'm just, I woke up this morning and I'm sick of, we have such divisive politics. Nobody preaches peace and prosperity and, things work so much better when people are getting along and making money and having fun and the music's good, right? But all they preach and comes at us 24/7 is just death, destruction, and anger. And they've got people pitted against each other. I've never hated anybody over a political belief. Have you?
no.
And I actually find people with different belief systems interesting because you can always learn something. I
think they're fascinating.
Right. And it doesn't mean I always have to agree. And I understand that going into something. I don't always have to agree, but I like hearing the different viewpoints. They've literally shut that off, and people they're not nice to each other anymore. And that's sad.
I think the reason we won't see any action taken in Mexico in the near future is you have to look at it from the kind of the cold, calculating Machiavellian politics of it. They want some cartel incursions because when there's an outside threat, daddy government can come in and we can help you. And then you're more willing to bend over, give up your civil liberties,
That's
give up your
right.
private. So that's what they're gonna do is they're gonna wait to we could wipe them out. We could wipe out the cartels in 24 hours. You could send in Delta Force and SEAL teams, Rangers and drones, and
You could, yeah, you
no,
could.
you could napalm them to the Stone Age by tomorrow morning. The reason we won't is because they're calculating we just need a couple we just need a couple kids decapitated in Dallas, and you'll rally the whole country.
Well, it's
That's what
coming.
well, and that's they're waiting
We're
for.
either going to see the cartels take on U.S. law enforcement on our streets, or you're going to see them kidnap an awful lot of Americans. And
I think we want that. I think the politicians want that. It's
they
dark,
don't,
but I think they
they
want
have
it.
no idea. That's why I want them to get involved now. They have no idea the damage that it does to so many people when these cartels, I mean, they just got to be stopped. There is nothing good or healthy that comes from these people. They're just, it's evil incarnate.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm sorry, every once in a while, you just can't negotiate with that kind of evil. You just have to take it out.
yeah. And I mean, and when I say that from like some of the that's kind of a line I've gotten from some of the special forces guys I've interviewed. Is they'll be like, there is a point where it's like you're not like I'll talk to him and like one of my buddies was in Delta Force and he'll be like, sometimes you have this feeling of like, well, why are we over here? These are just people that speak a different language and look differently than me, but they're still human beings, and this is their country, and of course they don't want to be invaded. And he's like, and then you go into a compound and you find a 6-year-old girl chained to like a metal pole who's been raped 30 times that day, and she's covered in other men's feces, and you go, oh, no, sometimes you just got to kill people, and like we're gonna learn that one way or another. We're gonna say Mexico is lovely and beautiful, but just like they can flip a switch and have everyone cheering on, just like you can have people who are against never-ending wars all of a sudden cheer on a tenth of $1 trillion of aid to Ukraine. It's gonna take one attack in the United States, and they're gonna say we have to stop Mexico, and everyone will be on board. And the people
Yep.
in charge aren't stupid. They want that. They want more power. And the only way you do that is when you have a threat, and they're gonna do it. And then we're gonna have this rational talk about, well, we gotta prevent it, and no one's gonna talk about, well, shouldn't we have been having this conversation 50 years ago? We're not gonna address it. They're just gonna go in and take out Mexico.
Well, I agree. We're trepidatiously close to violence with Mexico, but it's not too late.
No,
Like you and I have discussed, close the border, get Americans out of there, shut off the money. You stop the cash flow, you cripple these people. I mean, they're not that they haven't already made a lot of money, but they are teetering on the edge right now. But that's the other thing they should do is they should start locking up all their bank accounts, freeze the money of these cartels, right? And bankrupt them.
well, again,
That doesn't work, then you have to go after them. But something's got to give.
all this could be done in a second. Like we could do all this shit in a second, but we won't, and it's because there are interests, there's blackmailing, there's something in the intelligence community is benefiting from it. Like all this could happen tomorrow. Like when you wonder why we don't just roll up every pedophile and human trafficker in the nation, like how do we not do this? How can we like see an ant on the ass cheek of bin Laden from space? And you're like, but we can't go at well, the reality is we can get these people. We don't want to because there's a lot of benefit to having a boogeyman.
Do you think that well, I'm not gonna tell you what I think. I'll ask you first. Do you think that we have elected officials that have been paid off by the cartels?
Absolutely.
I do too. And
Absolutely.
that's why I think we don't get anything done.
Well, and then once you have them paid off by the cartels, then all you have is the NSA or the CIA eavesdropping on the politicians, and they come up to you and say, "You're paid off by the cartels. That's treasonous. How about you do what we say now, You're now blackmailed by us. If you don't do what we say, the cartels are going to kill you, or we're going to have you hung for treason. Now you're double blackmailed. I think our own intelligence agency probably likes when our politicians are blackmailed, because then you come to them and go, "Hey, we're going to go to Guantanamo, or you're going to pass through our new defense bill."
So what do you think is the bigger problem? Our corrupted officials or what's going
It,
on down in
the
Mexico?
whole thing is just ultimately, I kind of have a very cold and dark view after 1,100 episodes of this show, and my conclusion is this: I think it's a zero sum world. I'd rather be on top. And it's a very
Ooh.
it's not a I know, it's not a it doesn't make me happy. I have trouble, praying or meditating, like, is that have I just become black-pilled? But I think the reality is this: if we have our own cartel, which is the intelligence communities, and they have their own cartels, which are the Mexican drug cartels, but this one at least provides for a place where you do have safe neighborhoods, and I'm not getting decapitated because I vote for someone differently than my neighbor. I'd say this is the lesser of the two evils. It's dark, but it's the most realistic, non-flowery eyed, I guess, view I can take. I mean, I can spew all the idyllic bullshit of we're all humans and should hold hands, but I mean, which is the country you'd rather live in? And then you look at this country and go, well, America has its evils. Would I rather us and our evils or another country and worse evils? I'm gonna. Would you rather have two toes cut off or one cut off?
Oh,
You don't
honey,
want you
our
don't
country,
want any, but I'd rather have one.
Tommy, our country could devolve into that and New York second.
Sure,
The only thing that
sure,
keeps us from being Mexico is the fact that we have the Second Amendment.
yeah,
We are armed to the teeth,
yeah,
right? That's the only thing separating us from that right now.
yeah.
This government isn't working for us.
Of
This
course not.
government is letting us get attacked from across the border. This government has declared war on us themselves, right? They're not doing what they're paid to do. None of them. And like I said, getting on Twitter and arguing with, has-been Mexican officials isn't doing anything. I mean, they're
No,
stroking their own egos, but you're not making a whit a bit of difference. And if any of them were reading anything that's coming out of Mexico right now, they would know how they're laughing at us. Everybody in Mexico knows the cartels didn't turn over anybody. They're laughing at us that we would believe something so stupid, right? It just blows my mind.
I think what you're gonna have is it's gonna get so bad that there's gonna be dramatic, radical change, or it's gonna get so bad that you're gonna have some sort of military and or intelligence community coup in the United States. And it won't be good because they'll still just be people going after power, but they'll read the room and say there are cartels coming across the border, inflation's out of control. We're selling off our own strategic oil reserve. These politicians are selling you out. We're the new people in charge. And most Americans will probably go, hey, just put an end to the violence at the border, put an end to this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, whatever you want. They'll take the, you know, they'll take the new management so long. It's like what they say about like Iraq. Like Saddam was a dictator, but dictators keep shit under wraps. There's a logic to it, and I'm not saying it's good. No coup is good, but I just the more and more I look at it, I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to have someone come out and go, this government's screwing you over. We're doing a military coup and we're taking over, and things are going to be so bad. A gallon of milk will be $50. Gas will be $100 a gallon. There'll be a literal war zone from California to Texas along the border. You tell me then that you're really going to say no to the military coup that comes in and says, I'll put an end to this tomorrow. History is full of this. A failing country, and then its last gasp is a strong leader. And I'm not for any of this. I'm giving it a sober examination from my own, though shallow, understanding of history. This is what happens.
Well, if history repeats itself, you're spot on, but I'm hoping that we can be a much smarter
Oh,
civilization
me
in
too.
history. I think that and this is really what I think needs to be done here in the United States, because, you look at both sides of the border and we've got, our politicians are corrupt as well. We have to replace every single elected official. I mean, I'm talking from the school boards to the city councils to our governors, our congressmen, our senators. Every single elected official needs to be removed and somebody else needs to be put in. And then we need to dismantle this government. We need to get rid of every bureaucracy that's unnecessary. And, when Deming went into Japan after the Second World War and rebuilt, he put Japan to a very simple means test. He said, what's it supposed to do and is it doing it? And if it wasn't, he either replaced it, he repaired it, or he got rid of it. And it's time to do that with the US government. What's it supposed to do and is it doing it? And if it's not, get rid of it, dismantle it, or replace it. And if we took a very holistic and American approach, we took the money out of politics and we had people like Thomas Paine who were willing to lay down their plow and give up 4 years of their life because they loved the idea of this republic so much and they wanted it to succeed, this country could be saved. But as long as these politicians who've never created a job or made any money in the real world, and all they have to do is get elected to a senatorship or a Congress position, and all of a sudden it's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. They got themselves the golden ticket and they're set for lives. This is ridiculous. Thomas Paine, by the way, died in abject poverty. Lost everything to give those years to this country so this republic could succeed. Yeah, I don't see that in any of our politicians.
Well, then you have to ask, is the voting system corrupted? And I think a lot of people have lost faith in that the elections are free and fair, which means that the situation will get worse until people will support the thing that just produces results, which I imagine would be a strong-armed coup. And I'm not like for this. I'm not for this. I'm just kind of examining it as soberly as I can. And it's like I'm on the 5th floor of an apartment building. If this place caught on fire and I made it down 2 floors, and eventually I realized, the stairwells collapsed, eventually the building's going to collapse, I got to jump out of the 3rd floor window. I'm not happy about it, but I would aim for the tree and be like, I'm probably going to break a leg. If it hits anything on my face, I'll probably go blind, but I'll probably survive. It doesn't mean I'm happy about it, and it doesn't mean I don't wish I had a trampoline to jump on. But just looking at it very soberly and realizing the building's burning around me, I go, it sucks, but we're going to jump and we're going to aim for the tree. We're going to survive. It's just probably going to be bad for a bit.
Leave a mark.
For a couple months, we're probably going to be in the hospital, but we're probably going to make it. And if someone's next to me going, that's so dark, I'm looking at them and going, I don't want this to happen. I'm just giving you my most realistic prognosis. This is the best way out. That's what I think it's going to be. It's now, if the election system isn't totally corrupted and there is a wave of people that vote, it can be saved.
It can be saved.
It absolutely can.
Paper ballots.
It absolutely can be. I mean, I'm faithful. I do pray, and I think that the hand of God will act. But if it isn't, it's gonna come down to what Mao said: the power flows from the barrel of a gun. It's not good. It's not good when I'm quoting a communist, but
Unfortunately, that's the truth. There's no easy solutions now, but I think that you have to give everybody a way out. Sure. And if you give them a way out and they don't take it, then, but going back to the cartel, well, real quick, talking about the whole voting, what AMLO's trying to pass in Mexico right now. So in Mexico, they have the INE. It's the electoral or integrity for the national electoral. Okay. And everybody in Mexico, if they want to vote, they can't use their state issued IDs. They can't use their driver's license or their passports. They have to get a voting ID from the INE. So what AMLO's trying to do right now is get rid of the INE. He doesn't want anybody to have ID because he doesn't plan on giving up power.
So
2 million people took to the streets of Mexico City over this.
Yeah.
They get it. That's the piece that you have to look at Mexico and realize it's worth fighting for, because there's some really good people that think like you and I do down there, and they are trapped. Here where we have guns, If the cops ever tried to rob me in my own house again here in the United States, I'd shoot somebody.
Sure.
Right? You don't have that benefit in Mexico.
Yeah.
So they live in fear,
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand I'm making broad brushes when I say, just bomb them. I get it. The vast majority of them, the overwhelming majority are just unlucky, poor people who got dealt a shit hand and they're in a failed state. Like I get that. I'm not blind to that. It's
Well, and all Americans need to realize that if you are born in the United States of America, you are already in the top 5% of the world's wealth. I don't want to hear a word.
yeah.
I don't want to hear a word. I have seen things around this world that most Americans couldn't even fathom. Right? They can't even fathom how people live like this. Down to the islands and watching them live in these huts with no roofs, their entire net worth around their neck.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen some people take on some real difficulties. Americans are soft, they have no idea. But this is the greatest country in the entire world. We are lucky to be Americans.
Absolutely. I don't want anything I'm saying to come true. Again, like I don't want to jump into the tree. Like I don't want to. I hope something else works. But I hope all of a sudden, it's the stairwell clears up and I can go, oh shit, I can run downstairs. Like I hope that. I genuinely pray for that. I
From
don't
your
know.
lips to God's ears, my friend, from your lips to God's ears. No, I don't want any of it to happen either. But, after everything that's going on, it's heating up more and more down in Mexico, and Americans are more and more targeted down there. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. And if our government won't protect us, we've got to protect ourselves. Quit going. Quit going.
Yeah.
You should be telling all these kids, don't go down for spring break. It's not worth dying over. Femicide is at an all-time high in Mexico right now. They murder 10 women a day. And when I say murder, they rape and torture them. It is femicide, right? That are dying from femicide every single day. Why would you send your daughters to this place? Why would you take your wife to this place?
I don't know. But I didn't even realize I've kept you for an hour and 37 minutes, and I said I was going to keep you for an hour, which means it's a good episode if I lose track of time. But
yeah, I'm glad you lost track of time.
I
I've
said,
had fun with you too. I want you to stay in touch with me. I want you to keep
yes,
me
ma'am.
what's going on with you.
Yes, ma'am. I'll email you my number after this. I'm not going to say it on here, but I'll email you my number and you can text me and we'll stay in touch. And I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Well, when you see those cartels on US streets, you're going to want to call me right back. Go, you were right.
Oh no, I know you're right. I have no doubt in my mind you're right. It's just shitty.
It's really shitty. And people are really bad and people are really corrupt. And I don't want you to be a cynic. Let me leave you with this note.
Yes, ma'am.
People like you and I still have these conversations and we connect, right? And they're genuine and they're real. And there's a lot of us out there. We are the silent minority. It's all the bad stuff that gets the front page. It's all the bad stuff that gets all the news, right? There's a lot of good out there.
Yeah.
A lot of good. And our job, it's like having cookies out there. All you gotta do is go find one every day.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to get turned so black to this planet, because they're part of the reason why I've traveled so much is because I'm so in love with the adventure. My sisters tell me that my biggest problem is that there's too much life and I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whether it's dropping off the back of the boat a bunch of whale sharks or hiking pyramids or skateboarding down the street. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Don't lose sight of it.
And for everyone listening, before we started recording, I asked how you were doing, and you said, all things considered, borderline phenomenal. And I think that's such an incredible line. That was absolutely fantastic. And it's something I need to remember because I do have a tendency to get a little too sucked into the darkness, and I need to extricate myself from it and see the sunshine and touch the grass and remember that this is a beautiful experience.
But if you ever need a little good mojo, you just come and visit. I'll make dinner and we'll drink a bottle of wine and it will solve all the world's problems.
Yes, ma'am. Well, hey, I'm gonna stop streaming and stop recording, and I'll just give you my number right now, and then yeah. So everybody, thanks for watching.